knowing the fact that I did a lot of harm to a lot of people, especially my son, my family, a lot of people who I robbed, committing a lot of crimes. Knowing I did all that and hearing that someone forgave me for all that and still kept me alive even after I gave up on myself. I mean, at first it was shocking. I mean, I thought to myself, you know, who would ever forgive someone who did all that and still forgive him and still tell him that they love him? I remember right before Easter, I went downstairs to get a cup of water when we had guests over, and he would tell me to go back to sleep, and I told him I'm thirsty. And he would just start yelling at me and start running after me. So I was running upstairs, and he took a rubber slipper with him. He was chasing me. He chased me to my bed. I got to my bed. I got under the covers, and he started with the side of the slipper would hit me all over. And then all I remember is when he hit me in the eye, I got knocked out. The next morning, it was Easter. I was happy. You know, we had an Easter egg hunt with my neighbor. So I go downstairs, I go to my mom's room, all excited. They're looking at me with wide open eyes, asking me what happened. I didn't know what they were talking about. And then they told me to go look in the mirror. And it turned out that I had a huge black eye. And my dad figured out that it was him who did that. Ever since my dad left, my mom wasn't able to take care of 9 kids, punish us for everything we did wrong. So my life kind of went downhill. Started getting in fights in school, bad grades, skipping school, and she wasn't able to do anything about it because my dad wasn't there. I remember the first time I smoked weed. I was at church, and a couple of friends brought some weed to church. And when I got introduced to it, the reason why I smoked it, because I figured, hey, I was at church, these are my church friends, so, you know, it's not that big of a deal. You know, I was smoking cigarettes. I started smoking cigarettes because, you know, my mom I remember it was because of my mom always getting on in my business for, you know, ditching school, getting bad grades, to where, like, I said, you know what, I'm gonna do whatever I want, and thinking it's gonna bring her some harm if I go out smoke a cigarette. And then after I started smoking cigarettes, you know, weed wasn't such a big deal at that moment. And little by little, I got introduced to bigger, more hardcore type of drugs. After I started smoking weed, after I got the idea of trying all the different types of drugs, my second drug of choice was heroin. I shot up heroin for the first time when I was 14 years old. I did it for a couple of weeks, and then it was, you know, ecstasy, cocaine, just trying all the different types. And then when I smoked crystal for the first time, I liked it the most out of everything. So I started buying it more often, and I got really addicted to it, where I couldn't go out a day without it. I remember when I was about 14 and a half, I was smoking crystal every day for 11 months. When my mom first asked me, when I was about 15, almost 15 and a half, my mom asked me if I was on drugs. I was stealing a lot. I started going to juvenile hall, in and out. I'd smoke crystal, go out stealing cars. First time I ever stole a car was when I was 14 years old. And I would just go into a mall, just hop over a jewelry section of a mall and take a whole bunch of jewelry, run out. Yeah, I'd still get arrested, still got caught. But, I started going to juvenile hall in and out after starting doing crystal. My mom, she knew I was doing drugs. I remember when I was still living at home at a young age, every time I would come home after robbing a place, after getting drunk, after getting high, I'd always come home. Every time I walk in the front door, I remember hearing her praying in her room. She'd always be crying. Always praying to God to keep me safe, so nothing will happen to me, keep me out of jail, but still never gave up on me. That's what I remember. Every time we always talked, she treated me like I wasn't a drug addict. She still treated me like I was her son. She still loved me for who I was. I'd say our relationship was pretty good. I grew up with my dad around. I always heard people telling me I'm not gonna make it anywhere in life. Never gonna be successful. I'm ugly. I look like I'm deformed. And I accepted all these things, all the negativity, and I believed in it to where my whole life, if someone would ever tell me something good about me, would compliment me on something, I'd either tell them to shut up, or I'd always get frustrated when I hear it. I'd get very uncomfortable when I heard something. My mom would always tell me that I'm gonna make it in life, that I'm a good person. I would yell at my mom. I would tell her, always shut up, don't tell me those kind of things. I don't believe it. It's all a lie. I hated everything about myself. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. Every morning when I was brushing my teeth, I felt like throwing up. Everything, I don't know why. I always blamed God for it, for creating me that way. Why did he have to put me on this earth looking like this? When I was just turned 17, my girlfriend at that time gave birth to my son, who's 5 years old now, Isaiah. I was in jail. I was in juvenile hall when he was born. I didn't see him until he was about 3 months old, because I kept on going in and out of juvenile hall to where my son's mother wouldn't even want to be with me, wouldn't want me seeing my son. And somehow when I was still in high school, a yard duty teacher called me out to the front of the school when my son and the mother came by the school to show everybody the child. I didn't see a purpose in life. I kept on going in and out of jail. Always stealing. With my low self-esteem, with my depression, I didn't see myself happy. I didn't see myself getting anywhere in life. I kept on hearing those words from people who would always say, you're not gonna get anywhere in life. You're not gonna have a good wife. You're not gonna have a good family, and that always kept on repeating. I screwed up once with my son. I had a son out there that I don't even see. I had an abortion with the girl that I moved in with, who I was supposed to get married to. There was no purpose of me living. I wasn't good enough for anyone. No girls. Screwed it up with 2 girls. And that was it. I tried many times to kill myself. I tried hanging myself many times. A lot of times. I carried in my trunk of the car a rope and a hook that screws into the ceiling. Just in case, if I ever got depressed real bad, I'll just go somewhere and hang myself. And for some reason, every time I tried to kill myself, it never worked out. I tried jumping off a bridge over a freeway where a bum just walked by and just told me, "What are you doing?" And a bum out of nowhere started talking to me and calmed me down, and me and him, went to the side off the road and just started a conversation. There was times to where I offered someone $7,000 and gave him a gun, asking him, "Would you just take me out to the woods and shoot me in the head, act like I did it to myself, here's the money, so nobody will find me, nothing, But nobody agreed to it. And there was times where there was one time when I was drinking at a hotel with a whole bunch of friends, and they knew I had the problem where after I would get drunk, I'd get very depressed and always either take off in the car, drive very crazy. They would always take my keys from my car, but I usually had my keys, my car unlocked. And we were drinking at the hotel. I got very drunk. I got very depressed. So I go outside for a cigarette, and I just go to my car. It was unlocked. I see that rope. I see that hook. I'm like, screw it. I'm gonna hang myself. I go to the office. I get another room for the night. I go to that room and I start screwing in the hook in the ceiling, getting ready to hang myself. And I remember after I set everything up, I was on the bed, I had the rope around my neck, and the last thing I remember was jumping off the bed. Next thing I remember, I woke up the next morning. What my friends told me was they noticed I was gone for too long, so they started running around looking for me. And they went to the main office, asked them if they seen me, and the manager said, yeah, he got a room somewhere, and they didn't even want to give him the key, but they told him that I had a problem with, always trying to hurt myself, kill myself. So he gave him the key. They ran in, and I guess right when I jumped off, they ran in and they caught me and they put me on the bed. They untied my neck, and I wasn't dead. I tried hanging myself, screwing that hook into trees, but the branch would fall. Times where I tied everything the correct way, everything tied tightly, and when I jump off, the rope gets loose. And when I would take a whole bunch of pills, thinking, people overdose on drugs. When I take the pills, I would just start throwing up. Never was able to get any types of damage on me through these attempts. And I don't know why. After coming to rehab, we had a prayer night, to where worship night, and we were all praying, and God spoke to me through someone else, telling me that He forgave me. And then after that person walked away, I had this voice in me that said, remember that time when you tried jumping off the bridge? Do you remember that time when you in the hotel where you tried killing yourself? Remember the time you offered someone money to kill you? Kept on just reminding me all those times I tried to kill myself. He's like, and he said, well, it was me who kept you from dying. I'm not gonna make my creation go to waste. I remember reading a verse somewhere in Matthew. It said something, all you who are weary and have heavy burdens, come to me and I will give you rest. I started thinking about that, and I kept on hearing the pastor always talking about that Jesus Christ died for you. The blood that was spilled out was for you, for your sin, for your sicknesses. And I was kind of putting the pieces together, and I just made a decision, to come to God and just give Him everything. If He says He'll give me rest, tell Him, here I am. And I remember calling out the pastor and telling him I want to repent. I want to give Him everything. I want to give Him my life. I remember telling God, when I was praying that, here's pretty much what's left of me. I screwed up. I have nothing left. I don't have a kid. My family, I screwed everybody over. Pretty much whatever is left of me, here I am. Take me into your possession and use me for your glory. And after repenting, after praying, I felt a lot of weight off my shoulders. And knowing the fact that my pastor told me that everything that I've done in my past has been forgotten and forgiven. I have life in me. Back when I was a drug addict, I didn't see myself living more than 2 years. Either I was gonna end up being dead or in prison for the rest of my life. And always having to be on the move, always having to get some kind of high. But now that I tasted this freedom, and with just being happy without any drugs, having God changing my life 180 degrees, doesn't give me any reason to go back to drugs. My relationship with my son actually became much better. At first I was going back to Sacramento to visit, and every time I came back over there, I started seeing him. He was 4 years old already, so he started getting it that I'm his father. The way I started seeing him, they were teaching him. I wasn't able to see him by himself. We had a certain worker transport him to like a McDonald's in order for me to see him, and they would always tell him that, here comes your father, blah blah blah. And he started knowing the fact that I was his father. He can say he loves me, and I love him. And I mean, there was nothing more that I ever asked for. Was just only for my son to know that I am his father and that he loves me. The way I'm going right now, with my spiritual growth, with my I'm helping out as much as I can. I know God will bless me with a family, with a wife, with more kids, and I will be happy in the future, where I never was able to see myself being a happy person in life. I read the Bible every day, and God promised a lot, and I try to do whatever is asked by God in order to get those promises. And God doesn't lie. So I know my life will be blessed.
Remember how I used to be. Now I can't go on. I can't even start. I got nothing left, just an empty heart.